In this tutorial, we will use the machine learning model that we computed before to create an investment strategy that will be summarized in this table. You can see the returns over 300,000%. Now, which lines of code did we write to come up with this table? Let's find out. The first thing that we need to do is to load the model, which is on the models folder, model DT classification pickle. The only difference that we have now is that we are reading the file. We are not writing the file as we did in the previous tutorial. Instead of using the function dump, we use the function load. We save the model in a variable model DT, and when we execute the variable, we can see the decision tree classifier we computed before. Now we load the dataset of the Microsoft stock, and we need to think about how to implement the investment strategy. We will use the backtesting library, and the object that will do the backtesting report is backtest. We import it, and if we go to the documentation of the file, we can see that they ask for data and strategy, which is another class that we can find in the library. So how do we create our own strategy? We need to define a class for which we will use a name that will be classification up and down. The subclass that we create from strategy must contain two fundamental functions, init and next. Within init, we define the initial objects that we will use in our investment strategy, which is the model DT. And within next, we need to write the lines of codes that will take the decision to sell or buy the stock. Since we will use the machine learning model, we need to get from the data frame the critical columns, which are open, high, low, close, and volume, that we will use to predict what will happen tomorrow. So we select them by dropping these two. And we save it as df explanatory. Now we can calculate the predictions with df explanatory, but I get as many predictions as rows I have in the data frame. Nevertheless, the next function will take the observation that will be at the last day each time. So I need to locate the rows by the last position. I separate by rows and columns. I want to take all of the columns and the last row. And when I execute, I will get from the last day, as we can see here. Now the object needs to be in a data frame style, not as this object, which is a series. So we will use brackets here, and we get now the data frame object. It will be the equivalent to explanatory today that we will use to calculate the prediction. The prediction is returning an array. Nevertheless, I only want the unique value. So I get inside and I access the first element. And this is what we will call the forecast of tomorrow. We place these two lines within the class. Before we continue with our investment strategy, I need to explain you in a different tutorial how to put the logic of the conditions to sell or buy the stock.